Hey, folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast live stream. Going a little later today, I guess about 5:40 Eastern time. Thank you for your patience. Very busy day here, but all good. A lot of good things happening here at the TBN headquarters in Dallas, Fort Worth, and a lot of things happening not so good in the Middle East right now. We told you yesterday about the possibility of a major ground war in Lebanon, thanks to Hezbollah. And this has been a long time coming, folks. Israel finally getting ready to take steps to decisively deal with Hezbollah. We want to dig into that a bit. Also, the United States, which has essentially been tying Israel's hands for the past almost year in terms of that threat to the north, warning of, quote, catastrophic consequences if Israel goes to war in Lebanon. And folks, I start with a question. Since U.S. officials are saying that, catastrophic consequences, here's a question for you. What is more catastrophic? Israel going into Lebanon and having what will be a very bloody, messy war with Hezbollah, we know. Or is it more, quote, catastrophic to not go into Lebanon? What do I mean by that? Well, listen, when you have, I don't know, some 80,000 at least Israelis who live in the north, displaced, living out of suitcases, living in hotels with no clear date for when they can return home, when you have Hezbollah launching over 7,000 projectiles, rockets, missiles, drones, including mortars as well, since October 8th for nearly a year, what's more of a catastrophe? Israeli civilians, children, Israeli soldiers have been killed in this Hezbollah onslaught. What's more catastrophic? Doing something or not doing anything? In the long term, what is more catastrophic? The price of inaction for Israel means Hezbollah is emboldened and Hezbollah gets stronger. And Hezbollah's master in Iran says, wow, our good friends are, I should say, more than good friends, our crown jewel, Hezbollah, that's a crown jewel of the Iranian regime. They've been barraging the Zionist entity, as Iran would say, for a year. And guess what? Israel hasn't done anything in return. Yes, Israel has struck in return. We've detailed that extensively here in the newscast. But I mean anything in terms of putting a stop to it decisively and really establishing a deterrent. So Iran, if it sees that, it's going to continue to push. And the entire region, the Iranian ring of fire that surrounds Israel on all sides, if they see Israel continuing to just have this kind of tit for tat with Hezbollah, Hezbollah strikes Israel, Israel strikes Hezbollah, but not the kind of decisive strike, game-changing strike from Israel that makes Hezbollah think twice about launching any rockets, then the bad guys will be emboldened by that. So again, what is more, and an unnamed U.S. official used that term, what is more, quote, catastrophic, not acting or acting against Hezbollah? And I apply the same rationale to Iran's nuclear weapons program. If Israel strikes, if and when Israel strikes Iran's nuclear program, hey, it's going to cause a regional, global uproar. We know it. But what's worse? What's more catastrophic in that case? Striking those nuclear facilities and taking them out, or at least setting them back several years, or allowing Iran to have the bomb and then potentially use the bomb against Israel? Again, what's more catastrophic? So an interesting question there I put forward to you just from the outset. We've got a very smart, very educated audience here of watchmen and women on the wall every day. So we want to dig into that as well. What else do we have? Got a few stories that really piqued my interest. Speaking of Hezbollah, Israel eliminated another top Hezbollah commander that it says was behind, quote, many attacks in Israel, on Israel. We want to dig into that as well. But I think a good place to start is with Yoav Galant, Israel's defense minister, who was up north today. And folks, you might almost say, well, this is like the boy who cried wolf. For close to a year, everyone's been saying Israel eventually is going to deal decisively with Hezbollah and go into Lebanon on the ground. Well, as I said yesterday, it looks like the moment of truth may finally be here. Now, I'm going to dig into that in a minute. And reminder, if you miss any of our newscasts, you can catch them right here on the channel. Just go to newscast. They're all there in our archives. And yesterday's was, look, we had a lot of information. We dug into Turkey and Erdogan's open calls for an Islamic alliance against Israel. So you want to catch that. Also, you'll want to subscribe and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted here in the channel, so you never miss a video. Hey, we're fast approaching 1 million subscribers. We'd love if you could help us get there by the end of 2024. That's our goal that we've set. And the reason for that is that we want this message to go far and wide, unapologetically biblical truth, and commentating on the news from a biblical perspective and current events. So be sure to subscribe. We love you here every day as watchmen and women on the wall. But let's real quick talk about what Yoav Galant said today to the north. And he is Israel's defense minister. And he was speaking to troops today, folks, during a drill simulating a ground offensive in Lebanon. Now, Galant said Israel is shifting its focus to the northern front as it aims to soon achieve its objectives in the Gaza Strip. And hey, we've been telling you that Israel's close to, I don't want to say sealing the deal altogether in Gaza, but certainly Hamas is not what it was. It's a shadow of its former self pre-October 7th. Here's more from Yoav Galant. Again, he's the defense minister. He's in Netanyahu's cabinet. And although he and Netanyahu frequently butt heads, I think Galant is pretty much transmitting the general consensus in that war cabinet with these statements. He said, quote, "The center of gravity is moving to the north. We are nearing the completion of our missions in the south, but we have a task here that has not been carried out. And this mission in the north is to change the security situation and return the residents to their homes. These instructions you are waiting for," he told Israeli soldiers in the north, "I gave them in the south, and I saw our forces at work there," Galant said, and at work very successfully. And he said, "Such orders will also come here to the north. You should be prepared and ready to carry out this mission. We are finishing training the entire order of battle for a ground operation in Lebanon in all its aspects." This is, again, the defense minister. This is serious, folks. It's not blowing smoke. And to drive home the point, he closed with, "I've already seen in many circumstances where I stood next to troops who told me, you're just talking. You're not really going to do it." But he said, after a week, I met them on the ground. So even Israeli soldiers, some Israelis, look, it's been near a year, right? And Hezbollah has literally, I don't want to say gotten away with murder, because Israel has, we'll talk about it more in a minute, taken out several top Hezbollah commanders, weakened, no doubt, Hezbollah's rocket launching capabilities. But let's put it this way. Pre-October 7th, Hezbollah, again, has fired over 7,000 projectiles. Pre-October 7th, let's just say that would not have been tolerated. And not, again, that it's tolerated. Israel is striking back and striking back hard, but they're not striking back to the extent that it will stop. Hey, after October 7th, Israel went into Gaza with the goal of destroying Hamas. And they're getting close to that goal. And the number of rockets out of Gaza has slowed to a trickle. So there's one thing to kind of hit Hamas, and it's another thing to go in an attempt to destroy Hamas. And that is not where we have gotten yet with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Israel has hit them hard. And look, before October 7th, Israel hit Hamas hard as well over the years in Gaza. But is this kind of the winner-take-all great northern war that we've been talking about? Galant seems pretty adamant that it is. We've heard chatter like this for months out of Israeli leaders. So is this the real deal? Folks, what do you think? Let me know your thoughts here. I read our chats. We got thousands of people with us. We got a very lively chat. And we've got very educated viewers, again, from around the world. We value your opinion and your take on this. What do you think? Is Israel just blowing smoke, or are we finally at the moment of truth? After yesterday, where Hezbollah fired another 40 rockets at Israel. After yesterday, when Israel flew a drone into a residential apartment building in Nahariya on the Mediterranean coast. After 2 weeks ago, when Israel carried out this stunning preemptive strike in southern Lebanon before Hezbollah had a chance to launch. Are we at that moment of truth? We heard a member of Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party say yesterday that, based on conversations he's had with the prime minister, that we may be nearing an end of the nonsense. And Israel may be ready to say, you know what? Enough is enough. School just started, and our kids still aren't able to return to their schools in northern Israel. And we have still 80,000 people at least evacuated from their homes. We still have northern Israel as a ghost town. It's intolerable. It's unsustainable. So Israel may very well be at the point now where they're saying, you know what? Now's the time. In a way, it's almost now or never in terms of changing the game. Folks, I find it highly unrealistic and hard to believe that there's going to be some kind of diplomatic solution here with Hezbollah. Let's just lay all the cards on the table. And if there is a ceasefire agreed to with Hezbollah, and again, the focus is on getting one in Gaza first, which also looks unlikely. But if one came with Hezbollah, it's not worth the paper it's written on, because Hezbollah is going to break it. And we saw that after 2006, the second Lebanon war. Hezbollah has just exploded, no pun intended, as a threat in terms of their weapons arsenal and their capabilities. So look, Hezbollah is not going to suddenly lay down its arms and change its spots, because then it wouldn't be Hezbollah. They're all about expanding their territory and expanding their capabilities. So you could kick the can down the road and agree to some kind of deal that Hezbollah may say, okay, all right, we'll back up 10 miles from the Israel-Lebanon border and we'll just bide our time. And that's what they did after 2006. And they've been biding their time for 18 years. And now the moment of truth seems to have arrived, where Israel finally is going to say, you know what, we let this threat metastasize. Now we have to go in and we have to deal with it. It was the same after October 7th. Deterrence didn't work with Hamas. Clearly, we saw that on October 7th. And deterrence ultimately will not work with Hezbollah. Right now, you've got tens of thousands of reserve soldiers called up. They're battle-hardened, battle-tested. Israel's on war footing. The country is mostly united. There's still obviously protests against Bibi, the hostage families. I get it. But the country, when it comes to tackling Hezbollah, Hamas, is mostly united. If now isn't the time, I don't know when will be a more opportune time for Israel to move against Hezbollah in a truly game-changing way. And that only, look, folks, the only way you're really going to change a game is if Israel goes in on the ground. And no one wants to see it. It's going to be bloody. It's going to be perhaps catastrophic, as that U.S. official said, and we'll dig into that more. But it may be a necessary thing. And, you know, this all comes as we're creeping up on the October 7th, the one-year anniversary of the October 7th massacre. The high holidays begin in Israel, October 7th. We've got Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and then ending in Sukkot. And it's right around the corner. And this will be, in addition to last year, the most difficult high holidays that Israel's ever experienced. I think since its modern rebirth in 1948. And there's people hungry right now. There's people displaced. There's Holocaust survivors displaced. There's children who aren't in school. This is a very, very difficult time, and that's an understatement for the people of Israel. And again, coming during the high holidays, when it's supposed to be a time of observance, prayer, joy, family, it's not going to be like that in Israel for far too many this year. And that's why our sponsor for today's newscast, Meir Panim, is so important. Folks, you've heard me talk about Meir Panim over the years. This is a relationship. There's a few organizations we work with, a select few, and that's it here in the channel that we partner with proudly. And this goes back, this Meir Panim relationship, several years. If you're a longtime watcher of the show, you know how much we care about Meir Panim. You've seen me on the ground at their headquarters in Israel, helping to feed Holocaust survivors. This is an organization that is near and dear to my heart. Okay, high holidays are here, and Meir Panim is helping Israel's most vulnerable, Israel's neediest. It's israelcharity.org. Here's some more facts for you. We've got right now the state of things in Israel: 100,000 displaced families between the north and the south trying to rebuild their lives. We've got 100,000 Israeli reservists who've been called up to fight and defend Israel. And folks, Yair, our good buddy from TBN Israel, he's one of those reservists. These are people who are living, guys in their 30s in many cases, leaving their families, their kids for months on end to defend the nation. We've got 2.6 million Israelis living in poverty. We've got 1 in 3 Holocaust survivors suffering in poverty and loneliness. Israel could use a few good friends right now, and that's where Mayor Panim comes in. They have amazing soup kitchens throughout the Holy Land, but here's some of what they're providing. And again, it's israelcharity.org. 30,000, you can help Mayor Panim supply this to Israel's neediest. 30,000 pantry boxes filled with symbolic foods for the holidays like apples, honey, and challah. 2 million shekels worth of prepaid grocery cards, giving families the dignity, imagine that, to shop for their holiday meals and put food on the table. 25,000 holiday meals and care delivered to displaced families, Holocaust survivors, IDF soldiers on the front lines. Folks, again, israelcharity.org. I strongly believe in Mayor Panim. When you hear me talk about an organization in the newscast, these are the best of the best, and these are people who are doing God's work. We have a very discerning audience here and a very large, almost 1 million people who watch. And I'm only going to bring you an organization I know, I can vouch for, and I believe in. And then again, I know is doing God's work. israelcharity.org, and you're fulfilling that biblical mandate laid out in Genesis 12:3 to bless the people of Israel for such a time as this. Mayor Panim, israelcharity.org. Check him out. Okay, we're talking about this catastrophe, U.S. official. Let's dig into that more, folks, because the Biden administration, yet again, is trying to restrain Israel from doing what's best for Israel. And I'll tell you what, we've got a debate tonight, right, in the United States. You may have heard, maybe the only one we see between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. Donald Trump is America first. Amen. As well he should be. And Israel's leaders should be Israel first. Britain's leaders should be Britain's first, and so forth. This is the way it should be. You should put your nation's interest first. First, singular, not plural. But it's been that way throughout history. And now we've got this strange mental disease, it seems, developing among Western leaders where they don't want to do that. And they're completely ignoring the will of the people and the interest of their nation as we push towards a global style governance that definitely has prophetic implications. Can you say great reset? But I say all that to say, yes, United States, you may, and I say this as an American who loves my country, doesn't come more patriotic than me. You may think it's catastrophic, you may be warning, but you know what? We're going to do what's best for us. You can lecture to us all day, Israel's leaders should be saying. You can lecture to us all day, but guess what? We are going to do what's best for our nation at the end of the day and our security, as well they should. And I would hope that American leaders would say the same thing. If the world was lecturing to the United States, and we've got viewers from around the world, you should feel the same way about your nation. So Israel is saying, look, we can't wait much longer. Hezbollah has turned northern Israel into ghost town. They're killing people. We got rockets 7,000 over that number. We can't countenance this. We got to do something decisive. And yet, the Biden-Harris administration is quaking in its boots. And we've heard these warnings. We heard it about Rafah. Don't go into Rafah. We heard it in 2018. The mainstream media and the international left and the bureaucrats saying, don't move the embassy to Jerusalem. It's going to cause World War III. Again, President Trump in that case and Israel in this case, they're doing what's in the best interests of their nations. A full-blown war between Israel and Hezbollah. I'm just reading this straight from the Times of Israel. A senior U.S. official said that it could be catastrophic and have unforeseen consequences. There is an idea of let's go to war and then we will destroy all the missiles Hezbollah has and everything will be fine. It's not that simple. There is no magic solution. The other side cannot be annihilated. At the end of the war, Israel may pay a heavy price and not achieve its goals. There is no war in lab conditions. It's not a game. I don't doubt the capabilities of the IDF, but we have to think about the fact that there will be serious consequences for both sides. Again, this is a U.S. official speaking in Washington, D.C., off the record at a conference. And he shared this with an Israeli journalist named Barak Ravid. Okay, how do we unpack this? My first question, I guess, and folks, you probably have a bunch. Okay, you're telling Israel, you're everything but saying don't invade. What's your suggestion? What's your plan B? Okay, you're telling us, oh my gosh, don't do it. It's going to be horrible, catastrophic. Don't do it. What's your plan B? Okay, Israel holds its fire, does not invade. Hezbollah is still there, perched on the border. So, unnamed U.S. official in the Biden-Harris administration, what do you suggest as an alternative? Well, we need to handle it diplomatically. Okay. Do you really think Hezbollah is going to agree to any sort of significant or credible diplomatic solution? Are they suddenly going to back up 20 miles from the border, the Israel-Lebanon border, and drop their weapons and agree to disarm and cut their ties with the Iranian regime? Or is this diplomatic solution that you're pining for kicking the can down the road a few years, maybe even just a few months? That's the bottom line. It's interesting about these unnamed diplomats in this current administration in Washington, D.C. The sky is falling. It's going to be horrible. Oh, my gosh. Same with Rafah. But they never had an alternative. They know what they don't want you to do, but they don't have any credible option for what you should do if you don't go through with your original plan. Okay. Oh, my gosh. Unforeseen consequences. Oh, it's going to be terrible. We get it. Okay. What do you suggest? So, okay, we won't go in. What do you suggest? Crickets chirping and silence. Folks, look, I wish Israel had a viable and credible diplomatic partner right now in Gaza or in southern Lebanon. But you're asking that of demonic death cults, Hamas and Hezbollah. So you're not going to find any rational, sane actors in these two outfits, which again are stone cold killers. They're murderers in cold blood. So good luck having any sort of credible agreement with these modern day Nazis. And again, if you get an agreement in Lebanon, and look, folks, it may come. I'm not saying it would never happen. And it would be a grave mistake, I believe, on the part of Israel and caving to pressure from the U.S. You might get an agreement. You had an agreement in 2006 as well, and the UN was supposed to swoop in and prevent Hezbollah from rearming, and that didn't work out so well. But you could get an agreement here, and maybe Hezbollah, again, does move back 10 miles, and things are quiet for a few months, maybe even a few years. Look, the last war was 18 years between Israel and Hezbollah. But this time around, it's going to be truly catastrophic precisely because Hezbollah wasn't acted against sooner by not only Israel, but by everybody. The UN was supposed to be the arbiter there. The UN was supposed to be the buffer, the policeman there, watching Hezbollah like a hawk. And again, bang up job, UN. So we have the situation that we have. But can these unnamed U.S. officials look Israeli leaders in the face and tell them, okay, if you don't go in right now, things are going to get better? And to add to that, even if Hezbollah moves back 10 miles, if it's still essentially an intact organization, what Israeli in northern Israel is going to feel comfortable returning to their homes? Would you return? They're saying, look, we know that Hezbollah has dug tunnels, just like Hamas did under Gaza. Several of those tunnels were uncovered by the IDF a few years ago in Lebanon. What's to say that Hezbollah, which is many magnitudes more powerful and advanced than Hamas, and we saw what Hamas did on October 7th, what's to say that if Hezbollah had the chance, they wouldn't duplicate, God forbid, October 7th or even top it in their view? What Israeli would want to go back to their homes in the north and go to bed every night listening for digging sounds of shovels digging tunnels, Hezbollah tunnels, and waiting for the next rocket to drop? Folks, you and I both know, if we're being intellectually honest here, it's unsustainable. It's kicking the can down the road. And again, you may buy quiet for a year, maybe even two, but eventually you're going to have to pay the piper. And there's going to be a moment of reckoning. I believe Israel's at that moment of truth, that moment of reckoning now. The big question is, are they going to allow their hands to be tied by the Biden administration? And look, pray for Israel's leaders, folks, to have spines of steel and the wisdom of Solomon in Solomon's good years before he went off the rails in his later years, but the wisdom of Solomon and the discernment to do what's right, that God Almighty will make their paths straight and to leave all the consequences to him. Because right now there is relentless pressure on Benjamin Netanyahu from all sides. And part of that pressure is the U.S. undoubtedly saying, and Europe, don't go into Lebanon. It's not worth it. But they won't tell you again what they do in alternative. What would they do? Say, I'm in the United States. Say we had border communities in Texas, tens of thousands of Americans evacuated for nearly a year, or in Minnesota along the Canadian border. What will we do? Actually, maybe not the best comparison, because this administration has shown you what they will do. They'll let in 10 million people illegally in the past 3.5 years alone. And now we've got armed gangs in apartment complexes in places like Aurora, Colorado. And we've got places like Springfield, Ohio, small town, being transformed overnight by 20,000 Haitian migrants who entered this country legally and who the federal government resettled there. That's a whole other story we could get into. But what I'm saying is this: they're probably not the best comparison, this current administration, when it comes to border security. Nonetheless, Israel doesn't have that luxury. And, Israel's still continuing to strike. One last thing I want to mention here: Israel confirmed in a drone strike today it eliminated Mohammed Qassam al-Sher deep inside Lebanon. And Hezbollah also confirmed it. He was a member of the elite Radwan force. He was eliminated in a drone strike. And the IDF said his killing is another blow to the ability of Hezbollah to advance and carry out terror attacks from southern Israel against the Israeli home front on the northern border. Do you get the sense, folks, that, and I talked about this yesterday with Israel, with Lebanon, and in Syria next door, because that great northern war, which is prophetic, it's not only going to involve Lebanon, but Syria as well. Make no mistake about it. But do you get the sense that the IDF is kind of softening things up a bit in advance of a potential ground offensive? We shall see. Hey, keep it all in prayer. By the way, if you love the YouTube channel, you like these conversations, check out our nightly show as well on TBN. It's called Stakelbeck Tonight, every weeknight, Monday through Friday on TBN, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, with a re-air at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Our good friend Yair Pinto, who I mentioned earlier, he joined us last night. We've got Alan West tonight, great guest every night. And coming up, a special show later this week on the release of the brand new film, God's Not Dead, In God We Trust. Now, folks, in theaters nationwide here in the United States, Thursday, Friday, Saturday this week, September 12th, 13th, 14th. And I make a cameo in this film. It was a lot of fun. And it's a timely movie. It's family friendly. Strongly encourage you and your families to go check it out, September 12th, 13th, 14th. Just check your local listings, theaters nationwide. God's Not Dead, In God We Trust. Great cast: Scott Baio, Dean Cain, David A.R. White, Charlene Tilton, Isaiah Washington, Ray Wise, who always plays a pretty good villain. So a lot of fun being a part of it. Mike Huckabee makes an appearance as well. But check that out in theaters later this week. I think you'll like it. It's an encouraging film, too. You can take the whole family, too. Okay, we need encouragement right now with everything we're talking about. Keep it all in prayer. Prayer works. That's going to be our motto every day here. Prayer works. And I believe it's worked in what we've seen since October 7th. Some of the miracles Israel has experienced, miraculous protection. Think of April 13th, 99% of those incoming Iranian rockets and missiles being shot down. Keep it up. Prayer works, and God's on the throne. Hey, until tomorrow, thanks for joining us. God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.